that you've interacted with, and what are the main forms of transport? How are they transporting victims from one place to another?
Right. Yeah. So this is very interesting also because most traffickers transport their victims by sea and by land. But what we see in terms of the law enforcement place a lot of emphasis on the airports. They have strict securities in the airport, so they will screen person. But more in the Caribbean, they have very porous borders. Also in the Caribbean, most of the governments have limited resources. They are outmanned, outgunned, with outpaced with technologies. Most of the traffickers have better equipment, better technologies than most of the law enforcement. So it is very it is it so human trafficking business, occur in the region with very little interruption, because if you really look at it in terms of the countries, very few human trafficking arrests, because the laws within the region are also not equipped or not set out to deal with issues relating to human trafficking.
Hmm. And so, how do these human traffickers lure their victims?
Okay. So from one of the research, so what we did, we conducted about 19 questions, and most, or in fact, close to close to eight sorry 67% of most of these traffickers said that they get their victims first by seducing women in the village and the community, and also the promise of employment.
Hmm.
Okay, so employment within the region, especially in places like Venezuela and some of the impoverished nation. So when you introduce these things to person, they are susceptible to it, and they end up being trafficked.
Yeah, and Venezuela was one of the big places that you all did a lot of in-depth work in.
Yes.
So, where were the Venezuelans, the vulnerable Venezuelans, being trafficked to?
Well, most of the Venezuelans, some of them are trafficked in to Trinidad and Tobago. They traffic to Aruba, Curacao, Colombia, Ecuador. They to the United States. So they are a dime a dozen. So they are Venezuela is one of the most heavily trafficked countries within their region.
And is it sex trafficking and labor trafficking,
Sex
men and
trafficking
women? Or?
and labor trafficking. Yes.
Okay, of
Okay.
men and women.
Yes, yes. But what one of the interesting aspect of our research, as I said, that research came out from the CARIFORUM EU study. When we conducted our study, the government of Suriname gave us a lot of access to data territories, so we were able to interview persons with, let's say, from the Suriname borders, the Nigeria border. We were able to interview some of these migrants. As I said, it is a business. So, for example, you will get Haitians will come down to from Haiti to let's say on a plane. They're smuggled to French Guiana. But what we also saw is there were what is called ex regional migrants.
Okay.
Okay, persons from Africa, Nigeria, Zambia, China, Myanmar, all these places coming through the Caribbean,
On
and,
their
and on
destination
the destination to
to.
the United States, Canada, and Chile. So what happened? They're using this region as a pathway, and this is a well organized business. So from some of the documentation from a researcher called Cathy Yates, who did the study in through, we found that through the Darien Gap, we found that there are so many of these human traffickers, these smugglers and traffickers passing through the gap into the United States, and it's a well established business.
Okay. And so, have you all ever, well, first let me ask you, how many people did you have involved in this project that were interviewing people, and how many years did you focus, or did you only focus on it a year, or how long did the project last, and how many people were involved?
Yes. So for example, so the project started in 2019, and what ended up, because the project was so interesting, it went on until July to March 2020. And what we did, we continued with another project in Venezuela from March to September 2020. So almost a year and about 3 months we were there in the field conducting those research. So what we were able to do as with the study is to map out all of the routes within the, especially in Venezuela. So the 47 routes, we mapped that out. We mapped out the 24 major routes within the Caribbean. So from Dominican Republic to Haiti, from Haiti to the French Guiana, after, so the French Antilles in Aruba, Bonaire, Cruise, so all of the French and the Dutch Antilles, through St. Vincent, St. Lucia, Grenada, Trinidad. So we were able to map all these routes
Wow.
and
And
write.
how many people were involved in mapping this out?
Well, about over 20 persons were involved in the study. I was the lead person, the lead investigator, and so persons we had a lot of persons on the ground in Venezuela and in other in places like Jamaica, in Trinidad. We had a full study. We spent about 3 months in Trinidad. So we had a thorough investigation.
Wow, and a lot of informants, I'm sure that.
Yes, yes, yeah. Well, the informants will be, because we could not do it without the informants, because especially the sex workers, especially the Johns, we found that some of the human traffickers were very cooperative. In fact, I had a 2 hour interview with a guy from Trinidad, and about 2 months later, maybe 3 months later, he was shot dead by the police.
Yeah, that's what I'm concerned about, is
Yes, yes,
how,
yes.
what about your safety? Were you ever worried, or any of your team members ever threatened or worried about their safety?
Well, yeah, we had some challenge actually. For example, we went to one of the countries, and we knew that because we interviewed one of the tourists, and we found out that we saw a brochure. We got in contact with a brochure, and this tourist was very cooperative. He said that as a tourist, he heard his desire for was for the younger women. So he got this brochure, and they said that you come in this hotel, where as a part of your package we will introduce you to some young women on the 12, I think. And then he, that's what his, likeness. And we interviewed him, and he told us where he got information from. But the hotel heard about our business, read about our research, and in 9 o'clock in the night, the hotel came into the hotel, the management came into the room and kicked out one of our team member. So that night, he had a call his friend, and they came and picked him up. But it is, in some cases, it is scary. But what we normally tell people is that we're not the police, okay? With that, in the nobody knows, we are not interested in what you do. All we want to know why you do what you do. We're not informants. We just persons who conduct in a study. And in generally, most people would give in information. And if you get people to start talking, and you make them comfortable, they will tell you anything.
And I think, I mean, that's a great strategy for when you're doing the work. But now you have this report that has been recently released,
Yes.
talking about trafficking and the routes. And now, do you all still feel safe? Do you have some safeguards in place?
Well, yes, I think that we, well, I mean, for example, especially within the region, in order for human, there are very few arrests in the region. So, so in terms of arresting persons for human trafficking activities, the government of Trinidad, they're doing a lot of work. The government of Jamaica they're doing a lot of work. But Suriname, but most of the other countries, I mean, they I mean, that's not the priority.
Mhm.
It's just a normal way of business.
Mhm. I see. I see. And so when you talk to the traffickers about human trafficking, what was their perspective on uh, the term human trafficking or about human trafficking?
Right. Good. Okay. So their idea of human trafficking, okay, is a different idea to what the authorities or what the established bodies um, deal or believe in human trafficking. So they see that they are performing a they are supplying a demand.
Hmm. Hmm.
They're business people. That's all. People want girls. People want women. They are
Hmm.
supplying that.
Okay. And so, do they have any opinion on people they think are human traffickers, or is the term not even familiar to them?
No, the term is not they're not familiar. They do not see themselves as human trafficking. Human trafficking does not exist in their community. So
Hmm.
in order to understand these people, you in my opinion, we did not use the word human trafficking. Even though we were doing it, even though the study was a human trafficking study.
Hmm.
We asked them, for example, for one of the question is question 4 on the question here. Where do you get your supplies? Okay, slash women of okay from where you
Hmm.
get your supplies.
Hmm.
So in their mind, it may be a belief system. In their mind, they do not see themselves as conducting this atrocious a term of human trafficking.
Well, and then another, I think, scary part of your work in the report is the number of law enforcement and authorities that you found were also involved or helping human traffickers to commit the crimes that they commit.
Right, yes. So, for example, this is my hypothesis, of course, my opinion, but what we believe is that in order for human trafficking to take place, human trafficking, there must be an accomplice. There must get the assistance from somewhere. Boats coming in. There are countries that have radars. I mean, most persons in the region they'll know when a boat come in or not. So in order to evade that, they must get assistance from somewhere. Okay, even though so from the law enforcement, even though it's a very small percentage of law enforcement, we asked the some of their traffickers. Oh, okay. So the, they said, have you ever received assistance from law enforcement in the facilitation of your business?
Hmm.
And over 60% of them said yes, they receive
Oh,
assistance
wow.
from law enforcement. We asked them, if yes to the above question, please select the main type of assistance. And the main type of assistance, okay, 70%, most of them said that intelligence on evading other law enforcement.
Oh,
So
wow.
the police officers, the law enforcement officers, help these people evade other law-abiding police officers,
Hmm.
and that's a challenge we see. Okay, so to evading law, the intelligence and law enforcement. Then the second one was the transportation of victims. So the police also assist in the transportation of these victims to the safe houses.
Wow. And the safe houses were explain what these houses are.
Right. So a safe house would be, for example, a safe house would be like they will transport them by sea. Then they will from the port or from the beach. They will put them into a safe house until that they are processed. So until either the entertainment house, the restaurants, the whatever persons need these women, so they will stay in the house for like 3, 4, 5 days.
Okay, and then the boat would take them to the next country in the Caribbean or the
Right. Yes.
US or wherever
Yes.
they're going to be
Or
transported.
they will take them to the brothels or the